Hi, welcome back to the shop. Well, today on the router table, we're going to go ahead and we're going to build and install a mobile base for it. We're also going to mount the top and install the router lift and all the extra hardware for that. Before we get started today, I would like to take a moment to talk about shop safety. Be sure to read, understand, and follow all the safety instructions that come with your power tools. And if you don't know how to operate something, find somebody that's competent that can teach you how to do it correctly. And remember, there's no more important safety rule than this: your brain. Because a poke in the eye with a sharp stick really hurts. So let's talk about mobile bases for a second. This is one I picked up probably 15 years or so ago, and it just really wasn't very good. First of all, you only had, when it was setting down on the ground, you only had contact on the front. The back side of the tool was always supported on these wheels, and it would roll around. It increased the footprint of the tool, which made it really difficult just to get around in the shop. So, and it bent. It just didn't work. It wouldn't go over anything. There was no ground clearance or anything like that. So, really wasn't happy about this. Let's look at a couple of homemade mobile bases that my father made for his shop on some tools that I've acquired. Okay, so here's another base that my father did, and this happens to be the Shaper, and it's okay. It's got these big wheels on it, so it'll go over a lot of rougher ground, sawdust, and that sort of thing that the other one wouldn't do. But if you look at it, it's got two big 4x4s hanging off each side like outriggers, and again, it just increases the footprint of the machine. And the other thing is that even though I think there's brakes on the back side, on the back two wheels, even when you set those brakes, it will still move if you bump it. Sometimes when I'm doing wood bending or something like that, I'll set up a call on here, and I'll want something really stable to bend something on, and this isn't going to work. And in reality, that's why I don't have hardly any tools on mobile bases in my shop. Let's take a look at one more. So it's a little tight down here, but let me show you this next mobile base. This one, it only has two wheels on the back side, and they're up off the ground, and this sits flat. It's got the full weight and full contact with the ground, so it's nice and stable. To move it, it has these handles that will slide up on either side, and then you can lift it up like a wheelbarrow and push it around the shop. And that works okay. It'll get over so a little heavier debris, sawdust, and that sort of thing. The problem is that this is just free floating in here. So if you tip this up too far, in this case I have my planer mounted on this, this is really going to be top heavy, and it could tumble over and cause some catastrophic failure to your equipment. So again, a solution, but not the best one. But it's what I have for now on this one. So let's take a look at what we're going to try to do today. Okay, so for today on this, I've gone ahead and I've started putting the base together. And basically it's just a piece of plywood with 4 casters on it. I've gone ahead and done that. And that's going to fit right underneath in here. Yeah. So as you can see, we have a gap here, and it's 2-3 inches, 2.5 inches wide, something like that. And I designed it that way. My idea is to install some airbags, as it were, that I can put in here, apply some air, and then it will lift the whole machine up, and then I can roll it around on these casters that should give me enough mobility that I need to get it around the shop. Now, one of the things I didn't show you when I glued it up after my dry fit, I also cut a slot in here, and there's a couple of holes at the top and the bottom, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an air hose down. I'll be able to supply an air line up here, run it down through the bottom, and I have to cut out a little notch here in the front. It's going to go underneath, and we'll be able to come up and supply our airbags. In this case, we're just going to be using some small little inner tubes. Now, before you think I'm crazy, if you think about it, you know, your car may weigh 3,000 pounds and it's only sitting on 35 psi in your tires. So in theory, this should work. I know there's some limitations to it, but we're going to see just what we can do with this project. Now that I have my areas identified, I'm going to go ahead and drill a 5/8 hole with a spade bit. And again, we'll be drilling about 3/4 of the way through from one side, and I'll just flip it over and do the rest from the other side. I've gone ahead and marked and started to drill a hole for a notch that I want to put in the front of my mobile base. Now I can just finish cutting out the notch with the saw. Now I'm going to clean up all my rough edges with a round over bit. Now we're ready to go ahead and start doing some plumbing. The first thing I want to do is remove all the valve stems from the inner tubes. The air line is just going to be 1/4 inch regular air hose, and the first thing I want to do is I want to cut some pieces that are 4 inches long. These are going to be the pieces that are going to go from the valve stem through to the bottom side of the lift. The next thing I want to do is take the 4-inch piece of hose and just work it over that valve stem. I want to work it on there as far as I can up onto this stem. That's good. Do that with all 4. Now I'm just going to apply a hose clamp. Make sure I get that good and tight. I'm hoping I only have to use 1 hose clamp. I guess I could come back later and use 2. Or if I really needed 2 and this didn't get a good tight seal, I could also maybe use some silicone. But I think this will work. Okay, now I'm going to do is place these inner tubes underneath which will eventually be the top side of my lift, with the air hose going through the holes that we drilled for them. I want to make sure I get the inner tubes in roughly the orientation they're going to be in when it's installed. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and install some barbed elbows. This is all 1/4 inch, by the way, and these are nylon. A lot of the hardware I have is brass. I wasn't sure, they didn't have enough brass, they didn't have any brass elbows when I went to the hardware store, so I thought I'd give these a try, and if they don't work, I can always replace them with brass later. Otherwise, if nylon works, then you save quite a bit of money going that direction. I probably spent way more than I should have on this particular project, just because I didn't know what I really needed when I was going to get it. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to end up cutting these little stub hoses off a little bit shorter. Wasn't sure quite how long to cut those. We'll cut that off. I'll put on a hose clamp and put in the elbow. Okay, so now my plan here is to have each side connect with a couple of T's, and these T's will then have, so I'll have an air hose running from here to here, from here to here, and the same on this side. And then when I'm done, these air hoses will run into a central air hose that will run up where the air comes in. So I'll go ahead and cut some pieces and get this installed. So at the other end of my air hose, I put together just a string of things. I have a quick connect for my compressor, a little ball valve to trap the air in and to let it out. I've even threw a little gauge on here, just air pressure gauge, to see how much air pressure this is actually holding. It starts at 20 pounds. I just took this off an old compressor I had sitting around. My guess is it won't even register. I don't think it's going to take even 20 pounds to lift this whole thing off the ground. And then the other one, and then at the other end is just a barbed, quarter-inch barb hose connector. And I'll just run this around and connect it all together. Okay, looks like we got everything connected. I got to put some hold downs in here, I guess, and then we can give it a try and see how it's going to work. Well, now that everything's done, let's go ahead and put some air to it and see if it'll work. I've gone ahead and pulled an air line over here. The ball valve is closed, and I'm just going to hook this up. And now we can turn it on and just see how well this is going to work. I'm just going to start very slowly. You can see we got it lifting off already. Okay, so as I suspected, we don't even have 20 pounds in this thing yet, and it's already off the ground. Now, it's a little heavy on the back side, but that's because there's an extra half a sheet of plywood back there, and that's the cause. It'll have to be balanced out. I guess if I really wanted to, I could put in a 4-manifold system, one for each corner, and then lift individually till I get it where I want. But I think this is going to work out just fine. Right now, we have well over 100 pounds, and we lifted it with no problem at all. Let's go ahead and install the top and the rest of the hardware. As usual, I always appreciate your comments, questions, or suggestions. The website is up and going. I'm trying to add content as we go, but your input is also needed on that as well. So until next time, keep it level, plumb, and square.